know how weird Austin really is. I stayed, and my son is in the glamping business, so I stayed outdoors in Wimberley last night. Do you know how cold it was in Wimberley last night? Yeah, my phone wouldn't even charge. It was so cold. The water froze. But it was weird and beautiful. But that's enough about me. I'm going to give you my cred for this panel. I was the original editor of PC Magazine when it was a magazine and it came in your mail. And then I launched a bunch of conferences and events, particularly for you at CES. I launched the Digital Money Conference and worked very hard to make the folks at CES understand the importance of crypto. So really great to be here with John. John Karony is, first of all, an amazing human, and he will tell you about it. But first thing you have to do is give him a round of applause because he was, just this week, right, nominated Utah Business Leader of the Year, right?
Yep.
And Utah is on its way to being Wyoming and Texas in terms of adoption of crypto. That's right. That's exactly right. So, John, for those people, how many people know about Safemoon? Okay, but let's zero them back to what you envisioned and what you're building, just for people that don't know about Safemoon.
Well, I can start with the core, which is, Safemoon's a human-focused innovation company, so ROI, return on impact. So the more impact that we have, the more technology we release, the greater our ecosystem can grow, which then feeds back into the return on impact. So increasing the impact in the world and doing good.
Yep, humans and crypto. Yeah, human impact is a noble cause. So let's start with a little bit about you. How many people know John was actually in the U.S. military?
So I was a nerd. I was an Intel analyst. I got to do some cool things. I was supposed to be a reservist, but most of my time was spent on active duty status. I would probably sum up my career as getting roped into things that I did not intend to get roped into. So like, hey, go do the school. Okay, now that you know the school, you're going to go do this other thing.
And you were in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, so I spent 6 months in Afghanistan back in 2019. It was a good experience. Wouldn't do it again, but it was a good experience. Learned a lot and was able to really test my character and my skill set. Took a lot of lessons learned from there on, different aspects of what caused us, like what was the crux of the issue in this arena. So, yeah.
So yeah, and you also got to see how money moved there, and right, not especially efficiently, I assume.
No, they used cash for the most part, which when you have something that isn't transparent, it can create a lot of issues to the point where the more corruption that happens, the more conflict that's created, and it's just this ever-ending cycle. The other aspect I learned was kind of like entropy. First, third, fourth order of effects. What happened in Afghanistan would have a ripple effect across the globe. There's an example where they would go and burn a poppy field to get rid of the heroin trade, but then that increases the demand for other narcotics, which then affects what happens at the U.S. border, which then affects legislation in Washington, D.C., which then affects Afghanistan, which then affects shipping lanes. So everything's kind of tied into each other. And so that's one of the things that I identified while I was there was just the ripple-on and follow-on effects of one single action can create a tidal wave at the other side. So becoming aware of that and also being able to utilize that where you can not only monetize your first initial product, but you can also take advantage of the second, third, fourth order of effects on that.
Right. So yeah, and I think we're seeing it in Ukraine right now. The same kind of things, and actually we're seeing crypto playing a major part in what's going on in Ukraine on both sides. One to raise money and one to hide money.
Well, crypto's like the worst place to hide money because it's on a transparent, immutable blockchain. Like, just use cash, but no, don't use crypto for that stuff. It's completely visible.
Yeah, some people do pretty well, but yeah. So anyhow, so Afghanistan, you're in the military, you get trained in special intel and ops.
I was just So my whole job was just to know things, and so I became really good at learning things really quickly and rapidly, which is very beneficial when you're trying to pivot in business or learn a new concept. And so it's really helped me learning how to learn and then retain knowledge.
So you also have this incredible sweet spot in your heart for all things Africa. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing there?
Yeah, I spent most of my younger years, I lived in Kenya and Ethiopia, and then moved back to the States. I actually grew up overseas, so got exposed to a lot of different cultures. But there's a lot of resources, not in terms of like, natural resources, but knowledge as well. Untapped potential that exists in Africa, where there's a different school of thought or methodology where if you're able to provide access to opportunity in that region, the innovations that can come from there are stuff that we can't even fathom. When you're able to connect communities and connect different minds together, you get a different perspective. And that perspective is value added in the world.
And so do you think it's because, we had a dollar and a very traditional banking system here. It's sort of like we had a landline telephone system. When mobile came in, Africa and the subcontinent were faster to adopt it than we were in many ways. Do you think you're seeing that with crypto also?
Yeah. It's really easy to innovate there because they want the technology and they understand that why go through all the steps that the West had to go through when they can just skip to 5G or skip to renewable energy.
So tell us about, I know you're working on a project in Africa now.
Yes, yeah.
When,
I can't really discuss the details of that right now, but I can say I was there last week.
Things went well.
Things went well. I'll be going back here
This
soon.
is what happens when you talk to a special ops guy. Right?
I was a nerd. I was just a nerd.
So let's talk about what is your definition of venture philanthropy? What does that mean, and how does crypto tie into it?
Well, first off, crypto, you're able to, using blockchain technology, you're able to reduce the friction points in a system. You're able to create an efficiency that you can't really get with the traditional systems in place. For example, when you're doing wire transfers, why does it take 2 days to go through? When in reality, I can just shoot USDT like right here on stage to someone on the other side of the planet. And at that point, it's just how fast can the Ethereum blockchain go or the amount of transactions per second. So when you're able to decrease that wait time, well, now you can actually, those 2 days that were then wasted doing that wire transfer, you can just get straight to work. So because we're able to create efficiency in our systems, we're actually able to get a lot of savings. And rather than, and this is kind of where the venture philanthropy kind of comes in, it's rather than take those savings and increase our profits, we take those savings and we pass that on to our customer. And then we target areas that, or target product lines that increase quality of life in areas that traditionally don't have the same standards that, that we have here in Austin. So it's targeting those industries within a very efficient ecosystem to create good. Yes, we still have to make money. We still have to bring in revenue so we can continue that innovation. That's where like the venture philanthropy kind of model comes in, where there is going to be an ROI, but because our metric of success is how much impact we have, it's more about the impact than how long it takes for that, for example, that wind turbine to pay itself off.
Right. I know you love wind turbines, renewable energy.
Yes.
So the way that works is the efficiencies that you save with Safemoon, a portion of that goes towards these.
Well, it reduces our overhead costs to where we can actually implement more. So if, for example, if you have $10 and $5 of that is what it actually costs for the product, rather than take that full other $5 and just pocket that, what we do is we put that back in, and now we're actually spending the full $10 to get 2 products for the price of 1.
And will your community benefit from that as well?
Yes, as the ecosystem grows and as the adoption of Safemoon grows, the community does benefit.
So let's talk about what Safemoon has now. There's a token, correct?
Yes, so our first product, our first piece of software was the Safemoon token. We then released the decentralized exchange, Swap by Safemoon. And that supports both the Binance Smart Chain and the Ethereum chain. We'll be adding more chains as time goes on. And then we released our wallet. We have over 1 million users between Android and iOS, so we've seen a lot of success with that. And then we have Safemoon Connect coming out here shortly, but We have a lot of different products, but they all kind of feed into each other into one ecosystem that then ties into some of the stuff we're doing in the infrastructure development space.
So the wallet's here. That's good.
The wallet's here,
That's
yeah.
that's a good thing.
You can find it on the App Store, Google Play Store, just search Safemoon.
And you have a huge community.
We do.
How'd you do that? Come on, give us the give us the secrets of the trade, because they seem to be a very active, vocal community.
Yeah, so they were extremely active to the point where in the beginning we were just trying to get our feet underneath us and figure out what was going on in terms of how do you manage just this massive, very passionate family that we have called, the Safemoon Army. So in all reality, I don't really remember the first few months. It was a lot of sleep deprivation. But as I said in the previous panel, what we focused on was being able to communicate clear messaging to a wide dichotomy, whether it's a college student or a board-certified physician, being able to say one statement but actually resonate with both demographics.
Yeah, no, that's not, and to keep in touch with them, which you seem to do a really good job of on your community. So now I'm going to have to ask you about the elephant in the room. How many of you have read about Safemoon lately? You've been in and out of the news a fair amount. There's a class action suit that I doubt you can tell us much about, but I think you can tell us something about, and what it's like to be in charge of a company that's facing some tumult.
Well, so Safemoon won't comment on an ongoing case. However, that's a business model that we don't support. It's about venture philanthropy, and we're looking forward to clearing things up.
So, and the clearing things up, I'm going to just read my notes, is there are a group of people who accuse Safemoon of false and misleading statements and not having the liquidity behind the currency. Like, are you talking to your community, or are you just hoping they all go away? And I guess the lesson for everybody here is, what's the strategy in a crisis? Because I think you've done kind of well. You had some staff changes as well.
Yeah, my brother went back to college. There's nothing super complicated about that. Somebody asked, well, what's the timing? I'm like, classes start in 2 weeks. He's got to get back, meet up with his friends. He's a younger individual, and he's got a year and a half left on his degree. So it's just something that he wants to do. He's like, I might as well go do it now. But again, we won't comment on an ongoing case, but Safemoon will continue mission. We'll continue moving forward because we have a broader and greater goal, which is to do good in the world. And we'll continue to do that. Okay,
trivia question. How did you get Safemoon as your name? Anybody know how you got Safemoon as the name?
So it's a play on words. So there's a common phrase used in, I think it started on Reddit. It's called To the Moon. It was popularized during the whole game stonks meme era. Well, meme era, that was last year. It's been a very, very fast-paced year. But yeah, so it means to the moon. So Safemoon is safely to the moon. So it's just a nice little metaphor.
So what other lessons do you have for this audience? I mean, you've stood your ground, you're articulate, you have a vision, and you stick to it every day. That's not easy, I can tell, for an older person or a younger person to do. How do you compete in a really crowded, quick-moving space?
Well, first off, we're not competing with other people. We're competing with a version of ourselves 10 years from now. Again, this is business is an infinite game and not a finite game. And so it's about continuing the evolution, continuing pushing forward and improving the company. We're not perfect, and we never will be, because perfection is a journey, not a destination. Nice little paradox there. So for us, it's how do we be better tomorrow, the next day, 5 years, 10 years down the line? And so with that North Star that we follow, we put that into our products, we put that into our team, just like when our products evolve and we upgrade, whether it's the new cross-chain swap that we're putting in, the team also has to evolve as well. So people will come and go from Safemoon over the next 10 years. However, the vision and the mission is what remains.
And so how much hands-on, are you a hands-on kind of guy, and when it comes to just coding all of this, or are your coders somewhere else?
So one of the first things I identified is I wanted to get to close to a 24-hour development cycle as we could. So we actually have developers across the globe, whether in Canada, Southeast Asia, Europe, London, etc. So we have developers across the globe, and same with our team as well. Because crypto is it knows no borders. It's a 24-hour cycle, and so having support for everyone across the different regions of the globe was super critical for us. So the staffing has been very important to us in terms of making sure. And then in terms of developers, I honestly don't have that number off the top of my head, as that's handled by my VP of Ops, but I think we're at 25 to 50. I'd have to double check actual like coders.
And tell us about what you're doing in terms of security. I mean, it clearly, there's, I don't have to tell you how many scams and things there are a day. So how much of an emphasis, like in a pie chart, look at how much you're putting into the security behind your token.
Heavily. We look at that every day. That's why we have the, like we've been able to catch scammers and help exchanges stop people from stealing their funds via a blacklist feature, where then they are given the time allotted for them to actually track down who stole those funds. Again, like blockchain is transparent and immutable, so you can see exactly where it goes. Eventually it's going to go to an exit point. And so we've been able to focus heavily on helping stop this, because there's a lot of scams going on. We actually, there was a quick little, not funny story, satisfying story was, there was a scammer that we caught, stole about $80,000 worth of Safemoon tokens and other tokens from other people, and we were able to catch him. And then he started reaching out, and he actually sent flowers asking for us to unfreeze it. I'm like, no, that's stolen funds. So, yeah. But security is very, very important to us. We have 3 pillars that we focus on in terms of like our product developments: security, accessibility, and quality.
All right, so security we just covered.
Yep.
Quality, talk to us about what makes something have quality, like in your your definition.
Well, quality is on the it's perception of the person viewing it. Luckily, we integrate the Safemoon Army into our development cycle. So when I ask a question of, hey, do we want to cross the chains, I can get a yes or no right then and there rather quickly, which actually reduces our dev time. And because it's something they want, we'll spend the time it takes to make sure it looks nice, it functions properly, and then get the feedback on what we can do to improve it. So that's kind of like the quality process.
So your community is really informing how you iterate whatever you do next.
Yeah, well, it's we can talk directly to the people who use the products, and I mean, I use the products as well, but I want to get more opinions, and being able to directly interface there and talk with them and say, hey, they didn't like this feature, or they want an upgraded calculator within the Safemoon wallet, crossing the chains, etc. We're able to interact directly and then provide them a more quality experience based off of their perception and their opinion versus just ours alone.
And so what does accessibility mean to you? Is that just how easy it is to purchase and store? And tell me.
Yeah, so those who were involved with Safemoon in the early days in purchasing and having to grab BNB, swap it to BEP20. It was a very complicated process in the early stages. But one thing we've always been focused on is making crypto accessible for everyone, because it is for everyone. I mean, that's what it's designed for. It's to bridge people and bridge economies together in a borderless fashion. So making it easy to the point where anybody can access it. Somebody who doesn't actually care about crypto, but making it easy to the point where they can pick up their phone, download the app, and then be able to start participating in the Web3 economy.
That's it. Pick up the phone, download the app, exchange some money.
Exchange some money, interact with decentralized applications, collect NFTs, whatever they decide to do, but make it easy for them to participate in this Web3 ecosystem.
So what do you feel is next on your roadmap to, like, I didn't look at this morning whose token is where, but where are you today and where do you want to be as you move forward?
Ideally, I want to, everything that we've talked about, release by the end of this year. So that's the blockchain, Safemoon Connect, point of sale system, and the other products that we've talked about. So ideally complete all of those so we can start integrating the larger.
So go back to Safe and Connect for a minute.
Yeah.
Tell me about the product.
Yeah, so it's kind of a hub for a lot of the Safemoon ecosystem. So there's some NFT integrations into there, but the main point of Safemoon Connect is to actually make it easier for people to use their crypto. So rather than having what you call a public key or a wallet address, those are some very passionate dogs.
I know. Well, we had the baby in the last session. We got the dogs in this one, right?
Yeah.
They love Safemoon.
I appreciate the feedback. Yeah. Where were we?
We were talking about your new product about...
Safemoon Connect. Yeah, so it's...
That's what they say.
Yeah. They're doing the speech for me right now. So Safemoon Connect is the hub. It has NFT integration, but it's to make it easier to participate in this Web3 ecosystem. One of the key features is being able to do donations easier. With the point of sale system, it makes it easier for businesses to actually start taking crypto because there's an internal inventory management system and also an invoicing system where, because on blockchain you can actually see the transaction hash or the receipt of sending crypto back and forth. It creates a system where it's interesting. I've worked with businesses and I'm like, hey, will you take crypto? They say things, oh no, it's too difficult, or well, it doesn't integrate with my inventory management system. Name an excuse. And so the point of sale system is to make it to where there's no excuse not to take crypto, you know.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think MasterCard and Coinbase are working on a credit card that you'll be able to use, and I think it's those for this country anyhow. It's the traditional ways of using of creating a transaction.
And speaking of the card, Safemoon identified that early on, and so we've been working through for lack of better terms, the regulatory process in order to release our own card. And so we're right now having a launch goal of Q2 of this year for our own debit card.
So I think this guy smelled the hot dogs is what's happening. But so the last panel talked about the regulators and who they watch, and do you get advice from somebody? Are you paying attention to Blockchain Association or somebody in Utah or looking at Wyoming? Who do you look to?
The legal team handles that. So they monitor everything that happens, and then they give me advice based off of that.
So any questions from anybody? But we think we just have a few minutes left. Or any Safemoon users? Any Safemoon users there? There you go.
Yep.
Playing to the crowds. And because you know this guy? Because you like the coin?
So one of the challenges that I'm facing, I've worked with personal brands for a lot of founders and CEOs, if you want to call them that, of crypto companies. And a lot of them are having kind of a duality, almost a dichotomy between distancing themselves and being anonymous and being, hey, here I am, I'm a legitimate person. And they're having a real struggle on that balance because obviously this is crypto and it's market-based. Things can go down. There's lots of FUD, right? And a lot of people are kind of weary about being kind of cementing themselves into a certain brand of crypto or some sort of coin or token or technology, right? And then of course you understand what it's like to face FUD, and then you're one executive order away from being criminalized. So where do you see
Don't sweat it.
the importance of a personal brand and how you kind of I guess tap dance around the new developments of the new crypto economy?
All right, how do I answer that question? So it is a trade-off. Putting your name behind something takes a lot, and it is a risk. But for me, I believe in what Safemoon does. I believe in what we do as a company, and I believe in myself as well. And I totally understand the hesitation with doxing yourself. There is a huge trade-off there, and you do get a lot of flack online. They'll probably likely have to deal with the unfortunate dark part of it is a lot of cyberbullying that takes place. But you got to have thick skin. You got to let it roll off the shoulder and don't take it personally. And then one thing I always do is I look at what's the positive sentiment behind their complaint. What are they actually trying to get at? And then taking that feedback, whether it's positive or negative, and then using that to help evolve yourself as a character, as a person. Help evolve your character and also you as a person. So it's a tough decision. It's not for everyone. If you know that you're not going to do well with a lot of public exposure, you probably shouldn't go down that path. But also, don't let fear go into your decision-making process. So
and don't you think it's going to play out a lot like the market does? I mean, you will want to diversify. If you're watching the stock market the last couple of days and you're a blue chip holder, you've had a rough ride. So I think you always want to take a portfolio, whatever it is, and diversify it. And I think in the crypto world, that means, having some confidence in the blue chip cryptos that, and then having, I won't call it Las Vegas money, but having a little bit of tolerance for what you can
not
risk.
financial advice.
And not financial advice.
Right? I mean, everybody was a crypto pro in December.
Yeah.
And now everybody's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Never financial advice. So for me, I focus on the technology. At least with Safemoon, it's like focus on your North Star. What is guiding your company and what's your actual mission? Rather than looking at other factors. If you complete the mission, you'll have success.
I love that it's a mission. I just love that sentiment that it's more than just a purchase.
Yep.
It's really turning into a movement, right? It's like, that's what it is. Your message has to be a movement.
Yep.
And go ahead.
So as an entrepreneur, it's every day you're worrying about how do you recover from failure. So what is your biggest lesson that you've learned that's going to push Safemoon forward?
Biggest lesson. Don't be afraid to fail, because you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. I think one of the biggest learning points in terms of communication within with the Safemoon Army was that famous AMA back in April of last year, where we learned that you have to be able to communicate in a common, effective manner to a diverse audience. So it would be definitely the communication, and don't be afraid to fail. And again, you can break it down to a deeper level. Don't let fear be in your decision-making process.
And then I guess, how do you go out to your community and tell them why you're different and why venture philanthropy pays a part in it? What's the day-to-day action on that?
So it's a team effort. We have Mr. Adult, who does a lot of the community management. He's also
I
our
meant Mr. Adult.
Yes. He does a lot of the strategy and marketing and community engagement. So it is definitely a team effort across the entire team in communicating that vision. And from the operations side, it's also executing on what we've stated. And of course, there's always going to be delays in some form or fashion, and you just got to roll with the punches there.
So do you think that, speaking of delays, I know your wallet was delayed. It was in the news.
2 weeks.
It was in the news that it was delayed. And I think at that point, at least according to the press, you said something like, that was news to me. Do you think you've gotten smarter about how to handle all of this, I'm going to call it PR crisis?
Yeah, it just comes down to continuing mission.
Yep.
You can't pay attention to the noise, because then you'll get bogged down, and then you won't move forward.
And does it frustrate you that people really 2-week delay is like the post office does that every day? Right? I mean, so it must be very frustrating to have that kind of scrutiny all the time.
Well, just like it's a 2-week delay, the internet. How do I put it? If you release a bad product, they'll never forgive you. But if it's delayed a little bit and you release a good product, it's yesterday's news. They move on. So for me, it's if we have a delay, it's for a reason.
That's super smart.
It's if it affects quality, security, or accessibility, and it's a detriment to one of those three, we might have to delay it. However, with the wallet, it was a 2-week delay, and we worked through it. We released the wallet, and now we have over 1 million users across Android and iOS.
So you're going to release the next date of your next product launch, or just tell them, sorry, You'll see it when it gets here.
And that's dates. Okay, so dates are kind of tricky, especially in Web3 and in emerging tech, where you're dealing with a lot of unknowns and many unpredictable things, even down to sometimes there's this one error that keeps popping up when it comes to some of the other products, not specifically with Safemoon, but many other companies deal with this, which is like gas calculation error. And so you actually have to just go back and redo the whole little code base for that. But there's just so many unknowns when dealing with emerging tech, and there's no real roadmap or like for a car, it's very simple. It's like 4 wheels and an engine, and then improve upon that. With Web3, the possibilities are endless, and so you pick a direction you go, and you adapt as it comes. So creating a release date and actually predicting that, it takes a little bit. And so for Safemoon, we've only been around a year, and now we're getting metrics on like team performance, so we can actually start predicting when they'll actually get things done. So hopefully we'll be able to do launch dates. We just did one on the 22nd. Cross-chain swap will be launched.
Brave man, that is right around the corner. So
please don't get mad at me for delaying
it. right. No, that
going out on a limb here.
So, my question just went out of my head. But all right, you talked about gas fees. So the last panel talked about regulation, and do you welcome it? Do you want some regulation in this space?
We live in a land of while people want to live in the metaverse, they physically live in reality, and they usually live in a country with rule of law, and so you have to play by the rules. And for me, it's not whether welcoming or not welcoming it. I just hope they make educated decisions, and they seek to understand before they make decisions. So they actually become subject matter experts, so then they can legislate. And that's why Josh, my VP, is part of the Utah Blockchain Association, where they are educating legislators within Utah regarding blockchain, cryptocurrency, what it is. It's like you don't go to a police officer in the 10th century and then ask them to write traffic laws on modern-day vehicles. It just doesn't work. So you want to be able to educate them to make the best decisions and represent us properly.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's happening with self-driving vehicles now. There's, we are in Texas, but it is the Wild West, no matter where, no matter where it is. So my last question, Jordan, is that right? Are you? Is it? Yeah. My last question, I was told I had to ask you this, and you guys, we should do it as trivia. But what do you love to eat for breakfast? I got this from Cheryl.
Yeah.
It's like The Secret. Do you want the answer?
Excuse my jet lag. I don't usually eat breakfast, but when I do...
It's got whipped cream on it.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I do eat breakfast, I like whipped cream with a side of waffles.
Right.
So
really the whipped cream with a little waffle.
Yeah. It's all about the whipped cream. Yeah.
And I do wish you incredible success in what you're doing in Africa. It's so important. And for those of you who've been following crypto and you watch what happened in Kenya with M-Pesa, I mean, it really changed the graft that was going on in the military. It gave people their fair share of their salary. I mean, it's really an amazing venture philanthropy effort to watch, where you do well by doing good. And you guys watching Ukraine? Are you being asked to do anything, not do anything? Are Ukrainians involved? Like, are they Safemoon holders? Are Russians Safemoon holders?
Safemoon is global. I will say, I really hope Putin puts an end to the hostilities in the Ukraine, and I will stand with anybody who supports an end to hostilities and bringing back peace.
Well said. So with that, I'm going to let Jordan come back and do whatever he does best. Thank you so much for being here, and to the moon.
Safely.
Yes, to the